majority of Asian consumers is meant to grow from approximately 4 billion consumer in 2010 up to more than 5 billion consumer in 2050. Furthermore, the consumer in the emerging markets like China are spending more in comparison to established economies such as the United States. As China's economy is still growing at approximately 8% per year, the China's offshore software market has enormous potential for growth. Between 2009 and 2013, the compound annual growth rate is expected to increase up to 25.6%. To take all chances of using more of the existing resources and hidden potentials in China, you need to change now. This is Canberra Research International, and we would like to display new perspectives and approaches for TCS China.
Even though the Indian outsourcing industry has recovered from the global economic recession, and India and China are highly potential as far as the global market are stabilizing, the outsourcing industry faces a backlash and pressure from the Chinese government. Also, current industry slowdown and the general cost pressures forces TCS to rethink its business model. TCS need to cope not just with problems which have their nature and culturally and lingual differences, there are also business-related issues. The traditional BPO approach, doing more for less, need to be changed, or else TCS will get marginalized. TCS need to face the risk in pricing product more commercially and emphasize its impact on the customer financial outcome. TCS should avoid offering IT solutions at a very low price level and start offering cost savings for their customers. Start to focus on customer service and quality. Here it's very important not to lose the balance between increasingly tough cost competition and client quality expectations. So you also need to make sure not to neglect the low-end customer section by pricing yourself out of the market. One of the biggest challenges for TCS is the transformation process of a totally Indian company to a totally global company without foregoing labor cost arbitrage. The macro strategic perspective, there is a need for improving market positioning. In the micro perspective, TCS needs to open for a higher localization rate. This can be achieved through acquisition of Chinese SMC on the one hand, and also through organically grow in the long run to improve the company's structure sustainability. You should also consider partnerships with IT companies in specific areas and not just compete with them. Adopt know-how and use synergy effects. This means TCS need to move up the value chain, offer end-to-end services and form global footprint with strategic alignment that focus on high-end IT solutions through specialization, do a continuous improvement and innovation in TCS unique domain expertise.
In recent years, several pieces in the outsourcing food chain have become commoditized, which is actually good, but also poses fresh challenges for TCS, especially its BPO section. As for the finance sector, TCS China built a factory model, showed off all inefficiencies, and very quickly got to the stage where it became highly efficient and deliverable. Now, TCS China has to go on to innovate in other particularly domestic areas. China's potentially growing market, such as telecommunication, automotive industry, energy and multimedia sector, in consideration of their growing IT requirements and growth potential, emphasize sustainable solutions for the future. As of cultural and linguistic diversities, TCS might also have to rethink of its GNBM. Since communication being the foundation of success for this model, modification might be inevitable in order to overcome the barriers of growth. Adding to that, the counter-movement on the part of Indian-Chinese cooperation through joint ventures, academic alliances, as well as innovation labs still missing in the TCS coin framework are necessary to contribute to and also share TCS values and philosophy. However, there are a variety of environmental forces acting on the operation over the period of the plan. On the one hand, shifts in the Chinese economic policies due to the global economic slowdown and outbreak of a financial crisis have to be considered as growth is expected in its domestic sector on which the Chinese government has set its recent focus. Also, competitors of TCS China such as Wipro and Infosys have a huge impact on growing their market share. Infosys' recent establishment of an education center for the development of software talent and the conduction of soft skills and leadership programs, or Wipro's business model to have a workforce on both locations to support its China-based operation display concepts useful to implement in TCS HRM approaches towards higher growth rates. The bigger TCS, its need for management skills at all levels would grow exponentially.
Due to this higher need of staff, especially in the middle management, it is important to change some parts of the selection procedures. To improve the number of graduates who are immediately productive for the company, we suggest to focus more on a dual education system, like it is often used by European companies in their own and foreign countries. This improves the practical ability of the graduates as well as their identification with TCS China. To realize this approach, it is important to enlarge the number of strategic alliances with Chinese universities and schools of applied sciences. For example, with those who have a lot of international partnerships, so that the Chinese students study abroad for a certain period to enlarge their cultural horizon. And it's also important to change TCS popularity among Chinese graduates. Therefore, it is unliable to invest more in the marketing in China, for instance, to open some new marketing offices and improve TCS brand impact, especially if you consider that TCS has achieved PCM level 5 in opposite to many Chinese companies who are more popular. Once we hire an employee, we should ensure that the worker is productive, even though there are large cultural differences between China and India. Therefore, the employees should run through regular trainings, which led to an improvement of their English skills, as we think that this should be an internal language in the company itself. To reduce the difference in power distance and to encourage the Chinese employees to introduce their own ideas into the company, we should install a model which promotes the direct interaction at worker level. Through the cross-functional meetings, you can ensure that all the different departments collect and analyze the ideas of each other. Due to the approach to have a competitive advantage by offering more quality with an achievable price, the salary of your employees should display this approach. So TCS should pay a little more than your Indian competitors in China. You should also link the amount of money earned with the time the employee is working for your company. This would reduce the staff turnover and increase the identification of your employees with the company. To show the importance of your key staff, TCS should install monthly interviews with the middle management about their satisfaction, aims and hopes for the future. They should feel how important they are for the company and that they always have the possibility to achieve a higher position if they do a great performance, which you improve by a higher focus on internal recruitment and promotion. With all these changes, you could optimize the perceived value of your employees, but still you have to accept the higher costs, which are unavoidable if you plan to improve your quality. You also have to take the risk to lose some of your clients because you become too expensive for them. But the advantages for the bigger part of the clients overbalance because they receive a better quality, especially in comparison to the competitors' quality. The government would also benefit of our approach because of the deeper cooperation with the Chinese universities and subsequently a higher quality of the skilled labor. They possibly could see the risk that our company grows too big and takes part of a market share of domestic companies, which restrict their development. But therefore, we have to convince the government that the growth of the market itself allows both parties, foreign as well as domestic companies, to act successfully in parallel coexistence.
In contrast to the good forecast in a period of growth, TCS would face some serious issues in a period of stagnation or decline, as consumers tend to focus on low-budget goods and services. Therefore, TCS has to implement a sophisticated cost-reducing model which can reduce losses in such a period. Still, our approach is to stay and expand in the Chinese market, even though it may take some time, until our recommended model yields optimal outcome due to the enormous cultural diversity. To be successful in China in the long run,
We, Chimera Research International,
think that our solutions can help TCS China to overcome their recent problems.